Revenge, Book 2 in the New World series. Written by Stephen Llewelyn and performed by Chris Barrie.
Marston gently placed a hand on Baines's brow. "How are you feeling, Jill? Our long chat seemed to take it out of you earlier. I'm sorry if we tired you, but you brought us the first news we've had in 50 years. "I'm fine, Kelly, really, though the world did seem to spin upside down for a while there. Now I've slept on it for a couple of hours, I think I'm actually getting a handle on things. How did you even come to be on this mission, if you don't mind me asking?" As Moore said, I found the artifact, the ring pull, locked in amber, more or less here as it happens. That was a little over 10 years before I joined the Newfoundland. We were all ordered to absolute secrecy and threatened with harsh penalties if we ever talked. But when the New World disappeared and time travel was suspected, it all chimed with NASA, and they called us back in. It was almost like they were expecting it, waiting for it to happen, you know? I was terrified when I got the call, but after my appointment, they offered me a place on the mission, and as a paleobotanist, how could I refuse? The chance of walking among the plants and animals of a long-lost era of Earth's history was too much to pass up. "I'm sorry, Kelly," Baines offered seriously. "If we hadn't gone missing, you never would have been drawn into this." The older woman smiled. "Don't be. We've had a good life here, in many ways. It's a wondrous world out there, you know. You need to take care, of course, but Morecambe and I have adapted. And after all, if I hadn't accepted this position, I would never have met him." The door hissed open to admit Hetfield. "You must miss your family, though." Baines persisted in punishing herself. "Yes, I think of them every day," Marston replied sadly. "But I'll tell you what gets me through. You see, I'm an old woman. Nieces and nephews and their descendants notwithstanding, practically all the family I knew would probably have died around me by now. But isn't it wonderful to know that they haven't even been born yet, and still have their full lives ahead of them? And, in the long, long-lost future, I will see them all again, and around we go, joined forever." Baines smiled. "I like that. I hadn't considered it." "There's more to know," Hetfield interrupted them. "If you're strong enough, that is." "Of course. What is it, Moore?" "Well, it seems your past may be catching up with you. I'm sorry, Jill. I'm not as quick as I used to be. He got past me." Baines's heart sank as the door slid open again behind the old man. Then she screamed and jumped out of the bed, hopping across the room on her one good leg straight into the one good arm of a grinning Captain Douglas. "James!" She threw her arms around him and kissed him deeply on the mouth. He managed, once she had finally let him go. "Perhaps I should get myself kidnapped more often." Baines laughed until tears streamed down her face. "Oh, James!" She hugged him again, squeezing him close. Douglas, a little discomfited, muttered something about regulations. "We're lost 100 million years in the past with no way home," she pointed out, laughing as she spoke. "And you're worrying about procedure? When they took you from us—" Choked with emotion, she was unable to finish the sentence and simply laid her head against his chest, holding on in case he vanished again. "There really was no choice. I couldn't stand by and let them take my ship, or shoot you down because of me. I thought I'd lost you." "Aye, but here I am, lassie. Mostly okay." Deliberately changing the subject, she asked, "What's happened to your poor arm? Come and sit down. You must tell me everything, and then, finally, I can give you this job back. Turns out being captain's not all about the best seat in the house, with a small army of sycophants on call to bring you coffee. Not with Sandy, anyway." Douglas smiled, how he had missed her humour, but he replied seriously, "No, Jill. The job is yours. God knows you've earned it. I can't believe you took that battleship down. It's the sort of fearless leadership our people are going to need if they're going to make it through this. Maybe I'm too tied to the rules for this world, like you say. We need a more flexible approach. I can see that now." Baines seemed to wilt. Douglas chuckled gently. "You saved me, Jill. I would never have got out of there alive otherwise." "I thought I'd killed you in the attack," she confessed quietly. "I'm sorry we couldn't get to you." You put the lives of our people before your own needs. I'd have expected nothing less from you, Captain Baines. His eyes sparkled with pride. Besides, I'm here. I'm a no. To rescue me after I failed to rescue you. Is that chagrin, Jill? Well, isn't today just packed with surprises? He smiled warmly down at her. Look, they may have named that black monstrosity the last word, but I reckon it was us who had the last word in the end, eh? I take it you used the New World to drag us over the edge. That was a stroke of genius. Baines looked uncomfortable at his use of the word us, but also because an elephant had inadvertently entered the room, and somehow she just knew it was about to do its business on the floor. Douglas spotted it. Jill? Actually, it was Tim Norris's idea to drag the enemy ship over the edge as a coup de grace, she answered non-committally. I didn't know that thing was called the last word. Unwilling to be deflected, Douglas tried again. Jill? It's about my ship, isn't it? She cleared her throat. I've been thinking about that, said Tim, joining Giorgio and Hero in the New World's mess. You remember all the ballast you were collecting from the riverbed, Chief? Why don't we lorry some of it over here, along with some cement? Bacini nodded, understanding. You're thinking of constructing a prop underneath the ship to support her while we work on repairs? Trouble is, if we build some sort of dike and get the water from there, we would have to do so much digging in an unprotected environment. Not exactly, Tim interrupted the Italian. I was thinking about digging a shallow hole under the ship, as she's supported fully on the ground right now. Once we have our hole, we would build a hoop from steel-reinforced concrete. This would provide a consolidated ring-shaped pad, a bearer, if you like, to prevent the enormous weight of the ship from collapsing the edge as we dig a pit under the damaged area. We'll need to shutter the sides as we go down, using steel sheeting. I mean, I know it would need to be strongly welded or otherwise fixed together, but surely Jim Miller's people can sort that out, right? When the pit's complete, we can pump any water out, bring in a few lights, and work under the ship, away from any possible access from the outside, safe from the wildlife. Once the superstructure's removed, we'll have room to lower the strut and repair it, without raising the ship. Aside from the enemy after our blood, we'd be safe as houses. Support Sekai on a concrete ring and dig a hole under her? Hero repeated. Thoughtfully, gradually, he seemed to re-energize. A ring beam. Of course. Tim, that's a good solution. I was thinking about it all the wrong way, trying to find a way of lifting Sekai. I doubt even Captain Sandeep could get us off the ground safely at the moment. I never thought about undermining her to create a working chamber. Impressive, Bacini acknowledged. How did you come up with it? YouTube, Tim admitted shamelessly. Che cosa? It's an ancient pre-holographic platform online. It's still live because there's so much information on there, including billions of instructional videos. According to the stories, people stopped using it about a century ago because the advertising was mad. They drove everyone nuts. Anyway, that's all in the past now. A while back, I remember pondering on how Neolithic man managed to raise a 5-ton stone up onto 3 plinth stones. It occurred to me that, although I had no idea how they did it, I knew how I would do it, simply by digging the much smaller plinth stones in, underneath, and then lowering the level of the topsoil. I hadn't given it a second thought until now. Then you asked me if I had any ideas how we might support a colossal weight on top of the strut, and, well, that's it, really. Hero had gripped Tim's arm when the penny dropped, and continued to hold on, though his focus was clearly elsewhere. As with all engineers, his grip was powerful, painful even. Tim tried to extricate himself as politely as possible. What's Sekai? Dr. Satnam Patel also had a head full of theoretical problems. This was the first time he had been able to do any seriously knotty astrophysics since leaving Canaveral, and it was glorious. He wore a contented smile as he pored over the stolen designs for the augmented wormhole drive, somehow provided by Captain Douglas. Despite the war and all their woes, this was essential work. More than that, it was what he was born to do, and he was loving it. "I think we may actually be able to build this thing," he muttered to himself. "The mathematics border on insanity, but theoretically," a loaded term for any astrophysicist, but at least the proof lay in a canyon about 50 kilometers away. Smashed, perhaps, but proof nonetheless. After skimming the schematics, the gist appeared to be based around something the author called wormhole flexure. The concept was new to him, but fortunately, the designer had thought to append detailed working notes. They had all assumed their journey through time was triggered by energy being directed at a forming wormhole, the magnitude of their jump correlating directly to the measure of that energy. According to the notes, that was still broadly true, but it was just the beginning. If he understood correctly, a pulse of energy directed at the event horizon of a wormhole caused singularities to form, a possibly infinite number of them. The immense gravity created by any given singularity could then be used to open a pathway across the universe, across space in effect. When choosing a specific singularity, either at random or by design, direction became plottable. "The trick, then, is choosing the correct one," he mulled aloud. Powered by singularities, these micro-wormholes did not function in the same way as the wormholes used to send a ship to Mars and back. Patel had become familiar with those over the last 40 years. Though microscopic, these were much more powerful and, in essence, more aggressive too. They could tear a hole through reality, creating a shear in space-time capable of transporting a body anywhere in the universe. Far from merely bending space-time, if merely was an appropriate adverb for the wielding of such godlike power, this was a whole level above the wormhole physics he had grown up with, and to Patel's conservative sensibilities, this new science seemed insanely dangerous too. He began to understand that once the body had moved potentially any distance through space, that was where and when wormhole flexure took over. Flexure was apparently like a twisting but also elastic effect, so gravitically powerful that it could snap any body back to its source. However, because the journey happened instantly, it gave the impression of bending space. "That explains the name," he thought, but he understood that the real trick was being able to look back down a wormhole to see the staging point as it was millions or potentially even billions of years ago. To arrive where they had, in the late Albian stage of the Cretaceous period, they must have followed their wormhole 99.2 million light-years out into the universe. Crucially, instantly, without spending 99.2 million years doing it. They had probably ended up somewhere within the farthest reaches of the Virgo supercluster of galaxy groups if the map appended to the notes was correct. So, 99.2 million light-years out, and looking back down the wormhole, an observer would have seen the Earth as it was 99.2 million years ago. Wormhole flexure then followed that light, instantly drawing them back to that Earth, exactly that many years ago. Time, in effect, forcing space to adjust, like shuffling a deck of cards. Patel rubbed his eyes. Even his prodigious mind would need time to process, and this was the easy bit. Going forward in time appeared to be even more convoluted. Over the years, he had developed the habit of muttering to himself while working. Few understood what he was saying anyway, so it was an understandable trait. "This is dangerous, very dangerous. Like plugging the national grid into a torch so you can find your house in the dark. Dangerous. We should not be experimenting with this kind of science, not even to save ourselves. The damage to the timeline would be incidental. We could end up damaging the very fabric of our universe." Despite grave reservations, he read on. In order to go forward in time, a wormhole must, in effect, ride an entropic cascade. He kneaded his brow. What the devil is that all about? Are we stamping all over Heisenberg's uncertainty principle here? He pored over the notes until a dim picture of how the process worked began to form in his mind. Reading a little further, he stopped, shaking his head. Thinking that he must have misunderstood, he reread the passage aloud. If one looks out far enough into what we shall call the center of the known universe, eventually one will see the moment immediately after the Big Bang, roughly 13.8 billion years ago. From that point, all other points may indeed be plotted. He looked up from the notes. Indeed? But we know that's impossible. At no given point can we know both a body's location and its velocity. He opened what he believed to be an appended note, which, to his astonishment, turned out to be an entirely new branch of physics. It could have been written to contradict him too, belligerently stuffed as it was with all sorts of mathematical proofs and boasting a workaround for that very problem. It made his head hurt. However, skipping further ahead, it seemed the key was in knowing exactly how far back the new world had been sent through time. They had moved not an inch in space. He knew that from their exhaustive scans and calculations at the time. Furthermore, Sandeep Singh calculated the date of their arrival just after they had landed, based on stellar drift. According to this latest information, Singh's workings had been accurate. So from that figure, Patel continued, thinking aloud once more to fix it in his mind, we can extrapolate exactly how far we need to go forward, obviously. But this new mathematics seems to suggest that in order to go forward to our own time, we must go forward twice that far, factoring for entropic cascade. From that point, we may view the Earth as it was 99.2 million years in the past from there. So that's 198.4 million years in the future, give or take an hour or two. He returned to the appended star map. And that, from where I sit now, is... it's out in the Hydra supercluster somewhere, apparently. This is crazy. He trawled through some ancillary notes. What's this? Never attempt to plot a course straight to the 22nd century because of the constant variances that occur every nanosecond in every point of the universe. He sighed, rubbing his eyes again before continuing. So the safest path is to hop over the required future, to view it from a much further future, and then return back. This normalizes any small-scale variances in the timeline and will prevent the traveler from obliterating their required future by destroying that accepted timeline through direct observation and interference. Who wrote this paper? No author name. I've read justifications for faculty budget cuts couched in plainer language than this, and those from a man hoping to be on another continent before he worked out what it was he was telling us. Right. Come on, Patel, think. He thought, but did not like the thoughts that came. Hang on. If we can damage our timeline simply by traveling through our destination point, what about us altering the far-flung future and messing up someone else's accepted timeline? He grunted. I doubt these people cared too much about the future, only resetting the past. He drank a very large cup of coffee down in one. Okay. So we leave the Cretaceous to travel 198.4 million light-years out in the universe, into the future, and we look back down our travel line 99.2 million light-years to see our own time and our own Earth. Then what? Wormhole Flexia neatly deposits us back home? Patel stood and walked to his apartment's porthole, still absently holding the empty cup. He looked out over the Cretaceous plains of Gondwana. Well, if that's all there is to it, then I'm surprised I didn't get there on my own. It had taken the whole night and much of the morning for Gleason's squad and their two heavy vehicles to fight through the forests. Eventually, they crashed out of the trees into something resembling a road. Obviously no natural highway, there was little doubt the thoroughfare had been cleared by a giant bulldozer earlier that morning. They got out to look around. After some lively debate about their best course, Gleason shouted them all down and gave the order to follow a general heading of northwest, it surely being no coincidence that the new road headed towards the precise coordinates Baines had provided the previous evening. Which way's that, Commander? Asked Corporal Thomas. You never went camping when you were a kid? Gleason asked in return. No, I'm from Birmingham, like, you know. Gleason sighed. Just turn left, Corp, and follow us. Come on, let's mount up. He smacked the side of the vehicle to hurry them along. After a mile or so, the road began to curve right, foreshortening their view considerably. With little warning, they came to an opening in the tree line and found themselves pulling up on a beach before a large body of water. This must be it, said O'Brien. Really? A lesser man would have yelled, I told you so by now, Gleason called from the rear of the vehicle. In the privacy of the cab, O'Brien pulled a face. She was about to gun the engine when a large bipedal predator stepped from the opening behind them. The theropod stalked around their vehicles, flicking her tail angrily. After her recent injuries and failure, she was showing caution. She lowered her head and roared. O'Brien gawked. Commander, a word? Gleason moved forward to sit with her. What is it? Ooh. Precisely, sir. What do you suggest? I suppose we could shoot it. The 50 cals on the roof of this bucket look pretty useful. He trailed off under O'Brien's glare. We shouldn't just kill every creature that happens across the road, Commander, you know? We shouldn't? No, sir, she pointed out with a bit more point. We've been told, remember? Gleason blew out a long breath as he pondered. Okay, I used me last 2 dingo wingers on that ugly mongrel that attacked us by the enemy ship last night. He pondered some more. Hang on, I've got an idea. Oh, yak, Tim, you're filthy. Don't sit there. Rose slapped him about the shoulder as he entered the staff mess, for having the audacity to take the weight off his feet. Let me put this old cleaning cloth down first. Tim waited impatiently before crashing into the seat. Thanks, Mum. How goes the digging? She asked, setting a cup of tea before him. Muddy, he admitted grumpily. Are you planning on, no pun intended, mucking in? Of course. I'm supplying refreshments to the troops. Tim gave her a baleful stare, tasting his tea cautiously. He shuddered. This your first attempt? Rose bridled. No. Okay, yes. I wouldn't have known. She soured. I'll take a turn, don't you worry. Actually, I've never used a shovel. I'm quite looking forward to having a go. It'll pass, Tim grumbled. Hope it works out better than your first scrape was getting a brew on. Lucky for you, she continued over him. We thought to bring you a few changes of clothes. What was that? Oh, nothing. We should be able to construct the concentric bearer pad tomorrow, so long as we're left alone. Then it's simply going to be a matter of taking it in turns digging, until we're deep enough to carry out the repairs. Lieutenant Nasaki is working on spare parts and an assemblage that will hopefully allow us to get them into position and install them. It's going to be a lot of work, especially in such a cramped space. We just can't get many people in there, you see. He rubbed his face and ran his hands through his hair tiredly. Glad my shift's over. I'm done in. Lucky the crew quarters are on the New World, too, and not the pod, or we'd have nowhere to sleep either. It's kind of the officers to let us use their quarters on a rotation. Rose nodded, but clearly her thoughts were elsewhere. What is it? He asked. Her expression changed to one of concern. I was just wondering whether we will be left alone. Those people from the ship you destroyed, I take it a lot of them survived. I would guess so. The ship went over the edge. Pretty sure it was trashed, but it all happened in sort of slow motion, you know? I would expect the people inside to have made it, most of them anyway. I just hope that when we broke the back of their ship, we broke the back of their confidence too. If nothing else, I hope it bought us some time. Rose walked to the window. It's not just them, though, is it? That monster's out there too. Tim followed her. I think it's a Tyrannititan. He placed one hand on her shoulder in a comradely fashion, the other on the sill. He really was shattered, a weary smile on his lips. If I'm right, then I'm wrong too. Huh? Oh, it's just that we believe they were extinct by this time. 12 or 13 million years ago, actually, to the best of my knowledge at least. He chuckled. For what that's worth these days. These days? Right. Still, your knowledge has got us this far. She turned to give him a hug, then pulled away a little, arms straight, looking earnestly into his eyes. I'm very proud of you, Tim. They looked out of the window in silence. Tim always felt embarrassed by praise, but could not deny a certain gratification too. In the weirdest and most convoluted manner possible, he had finally found his place in the world, for the first time knowing where he belonged. He was strangely content. Do you know if it's a he or she? The dinosaur? Maybe we'll be able to discern that with observation. It's almost impossible to say just now. We don't know enough. When examining the fossil record, the only clues to sexing a dinosaur skeleton were more a matter of timing and luck than anything else. What do you mean? Well, if an animal happened to be close to laying eggs when she died, trace evidence can sometimes be left in the fossilized bones. Interestingly, this is a characteristic shared with birds from our own time too, so it's a process well known to science. Basically, when an egg-laying species is about to lay, they suddenly require huge amounts of calcium, and quickly. This new bone growth forms in the empty voids within the skeleton, and only in females. When they're in season, it's kind of like having a reservoir of calcium on tap. It's called medullary bone. Their physiology takes it from there, carrying the calcium through the bloodstream to where it's needed to build eggshell. Remarkable, really. Certainly one of the many wonders of nature. Of course, if this was not evident in a skeleton, it might mean it belonged to a male, or could just as easily have belonged to a female who was not pregnant. So you see the problem? So, you're saying you don't know? Tim laughed. Fair cop, no. Size didn't seem to be a factor within the theropod dinosaurs, nor were there any differentiating features between the sexes, like cranial ridges, things like that. They seem to be almost indistinguishable, in fact, at least without the rest of the anatomy. From what little we've seen here, I'm damned if I can tell the difference. They must use scent and pheromones to seek a mate at certain times. That would be my guess, anyway. As much as I love them, I hope I'm never close enough to tell the difference from their odour. Woodsy told me the females were bigger and nastier. Woodsy told you? Tim replied, his inflection speaking volumes. No, he said that was what you said. Tim laughed again. Now I'm a real paleontologist. Rose looked at him in bewilderment. Sorry, that's an in-joke. It seems that all paleontologists have to be misquoted at some point in their career. It's often just down to Chinese whispers, woolly writing, or a journalist attempting to make a story more sensational. Woodsy's reasons are probably more prosaic, however, and probably have a lot less to do with gingering up a story and more to do with sexism at your personal expense. He calls it taking the Michelle. Rose did not appear to be joining in with the jocularity. Does he? I suspect this animal might be female, though. Why, do you think she might be about to lay eggs? That's hard to say. Rose looked perplexed. So why do you suspect it's female, then? As they gazed down from their vantage point high up within the ship, they saw the animal in question still patrolling around their new roadway onto the beach. Clearly, it had scented something of interest. Tim watched the animal for a few moments and then strode towards the doors. Rose followed him, collecting the dirty towel on her way. Well, why do you think it's female? She called after him again. Tim stopped halfway through the doorway and called back. Because it seems to be in a near-permanent strop. The dirty towel hit the wall right next to where his head had been. Gleason to the New World, come in. New World here, Crewman Bacini speaking. Good to hear your voice. How can we help you, Commander? Giorgio, we're on the road to you. Do you still have vehicles outside? Around the ship, I mean? Yes, Commander. In fact, the drivers are just returning to them and are about to set off back to the pod. Great. Can you get them all to honk? Eh? I mean, can you repeat that, sir? Honk. Honk their horns. We need a distraction. Ah, I get you. Please stand by. The comm cleared for a few moments, and then the disparate cry of several horns startled the bird life from the trees. Conversely, Tyrannotitans stopped roaring to turn in the direction of the cacophony. She leaned forward, head low, tail held high, and claws grasping, her jaws just slightly apart as she sniffed the air. Right, O'Brien, do it! Go left! Go left! Go, go, go! Gleason shouted excitedly. O'Brien gunned the powerful diesel engine as ordered, and the tracked APC jumped into action, pushing beneath the angry Carcharodontosaur's tail. The animal wheeled back round furiously, giving the other vehicle chance to pass her on the right, smacking the indignant animal's tail on its way through. "That was your idea?" hissed O'Brien, so that no one outside the cab would hear. "Go for it?" "It worked, didn't it?" "If we make it to the ship, sir, I'll let you know." "Better put your foot down then, before that thing tries using us for a skateboard." "Sir, delicately, next time we need an idea to save all our lives, maybe we could bend the military codes of conduct and take a vote? Perhaps?" "Perhaps you should concentrate on driving, Corporal." The wheeled vehicle left them and the dinosaur behind easily, once out and clear on the beach around the edge of the lake. The tracked vehicle was slower off the mark, and continual buffeting from the 7-ton predator running alongside them made grip harder to find. The creature was clearly trying to turn them over, instinctual behavior because most animals tend to be softer underneath. "Commander! Commander!" O'Brien exclaimed as a big nudge sent them into the shallows. "Keep your speed up! Keep your speed up!" Gleason encouraged. "We can't risk getting bogged down. Does anyone know if these things float?" "Us or the dinosaur? Look, I'm trying. It keeps pushing us further in." The slow, concussive thud of heavy machine guns made them both jump. "What the?" they said in unison. Corporal Jones had taken the small turret above and just behind the cab and was firing into the air. It turned out to be one loud surprise too many for Tyrannatitan, and she broke off angry and frustrated once more. Gleason blew out his cheeks with relief. "Wouldn't want to be the one who bumps into that thing this arvo." A short and bouncy ride later, the armoured vehicle arrived with the others and parked next to the crashed New World. "That wasn't so bad now, was it?" Gleason asked, chipper once more. O'Brien took her shaking hands from the control levers and turned to glare at her commanding officer, not yet trusting herself to speak.
Revenge, Book 2 in the New World series. Written by Stephen Llewelyn and performed by Chris Barrie. New installments are uploaded weekly. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like or comment. Visit the link in the description for free New World companion stories, available for download as ebooks.